And continuing with road rehabilitation, Governor Abdul Fattah Ahmed of Kwara State has disclosed that the focus of his administration will be on rural roads. The governor was speaking in Ilorin, the Kwara State capital, where he also believes the newly commissioned state-owned asphalt plant will aid the rehabilitation of more roads.
We must admit to the fact that our roads are truly bad, and efforts are being made within the limited resources to put the roads into shape. We're aware that before this administration, the federal roads in the state have not had any impact. And what it implies is that we have to spare some of our resources at the state level, at least to repair badly affected federal roads and make them to use. Say for this administration of the President Muhammad Buhari administration, that we begin to see impact of federal activities on our roads. That again saw the dwindling resources impacting negatively on the capacity of local governments who are supposed to maintain rural roads. So again, we have to stretch as a state to do the rural roads of local governments, in addition to carrying out state roads. So it's been quite a Herculean, but we have been able to see ourselves moving on through, and hopefully we'll get to quite a number of places. We've tried to reduce our cost, for instance, by buying an asphalt plant, so that we'll only be looking at cost of inputs. We're investing also in equipment through our rural road agency, so that will begin to see us making a lot more areas in the rural environment motorable. Immediately after the rainy season, we'll work on some of these roads. For the road maintenance agency, theirs in terms of rehabilitation is a continuous program.
Dr. Abdul Fattah Ahmed of Kwara State speaking there. Nigerians are known for their persistence, determination, dexterity, as well as diversity. With a pot of cultures, different people, languages, religions, and beliefs, many believe that it's our diversity that makes us the force we are. Well, to celebrate our 57 years of independence, we'll be taking a look at Nigeria's cultural diversity, a catalyst for unification. And joining us now in the studio to discuss this is Dr. Justice Nzemeka, a lecturer at the Department of History and Diplomatic Studies, Christopher University, Mowe, Ogun State. A pleasure to have you on the program.
Thank you for inviting me.
All right, so it is said that there is an archaeological evidence that societies have been living in Nigeria for more than 2,500 years. Yeah. And the borders of modern Nigeria were not created until the British colonial rule and then 1914. With more than 250 ethnic groups calling present-day, Nigeria home, why do you think the discussions of the past are rearing its head in the present?
Yes, history is very concrete in national development. And an attempt to know what happened in the past will also help us to know what will happen in the present and even in the future. Like you have just pointed out in your intro, that northern Nigeria, as it were, before the colonial era, the boundaries are demarcated everywhere, and the British incursion into Nigeria colonial enterprise. We look at it from that perspective, that it is very helpful when we begin to look at the geographical bearings of Nigeria and the history, even from the pre-colonial period. It is instructive to know that the pre-colonial society in Nigeria was elaborate, and they had robust political, economic, and social culture until the coming of the British. All that the British tried to do was to dislocate and truncate an already existing platform that was adequate for the social system and pattern integration of our community. And since then, Nigeria has been having problems.
In your opinion, was the struggle for independence perhaps the only time we came together as, ethnic groups, rather, as a people with one voice, not as ethnic groups now? 1960, the 1960, yes.
Yes. 1960, let's go back before 1960. Ethnic configuration had been existing. We had the Hausa Fulanis, we had the Igbos, we had the Yorubas, and several others. Otto Richards Constitution, in an attempt for constitutional development, brought about a very big problem in the Nigeria political scene. Prior to this era, the Igbos were able to govern themselves. The Yorubas the same thing, the Hausas the same thing. But an attempt at amalgamation in which Otto Richard's constitution brought in regionalism, and since then, ethnic politics had reared its ugly head and politics of domination. That is exactly what Nigeria is suffering today. When people are talking about restructuring and people are talking about secession and militancy here and there, we cannot divorce this issue of coming together to discuss, because culture is important. But the question should be, how do we use culture to advance the present problem?
So in your opinion, it was a wrong mixture?
It was a wrong mixture, and it has to be addressed by the Nigerian people collectively, holistically, and in all honesty, because agitation will continue until it is addressed.
So you're saying there is there's no unifying factor?
There is a unifying factor in
that?
Our diversity. The diversity is the advantage. And the fact that people have not actually come out to address the lopsided nature in politics, creation of states, and infrastructure development is exactly what is trumping up all this. If it is actually embraced that there is a need for people to come at a round table to say, let us talk about the Nigerian question, we will be in a better position in our country. There we'll be able to use our diversity.
But we did that 2014 with the National Confab.
Was it implemented? The Esho panel, was it implemented? Okigbo panel, was it implemented? So Nigeria has been described by scholars as a nation of conference without implementation. If you convene committees, conferences, and panels to look into a problem, it behoves on you, if you have the political will, because what we are talking about is that there is the absence of political will. The Oputa panel, for instance, had an elaborate mandate. The terms of and reference was also adequate to cover it. It did its work, brought us 7 volumes of the work, submitted to them, but the work was ambushed by the Supreme Court and the 3 former heads of states who were indicted in that panel.
Just because we don't have a lot of time, there's a saying that variety is the spice of life.
Yes.
What do you think we can do, we can leverage on, based on our cultural diversity to foster unity?
What we need to do at this stage is to make traditional rulers more effective, because the politicians have failed us. Politicians come and go, traditional rulers remain. So all that Nigerian society has to do now, and the government in power, is to convene a conference of traditional rulers. They are also the custodian of the people. That is their sovereignty. So in this wise, they will give their wise counsel. The issue of militancy will come to an end, because they know everyone in every nook and cranny of their sovereignty. Again, I will advocate that interstate tours by rulers, by manner of peace and settlement, should be promoted. Peace education also should be encouraged. The setting up of Peace Museum is also necessary. Then coordinating Nigerian culture, or harnessing Nigerian culture, and then with that of the diaspora, will also give us a leverage.
All right. Thank you so much. This is so much we can take at this time. We've been speaking to Dr. Justice Nzemeka, a lecturer at the Department of History and Diplomatic Studies, Christopher University, Mowe, Ogun State. A pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Well, we're going to take a quick break now. When we return, we'll be talking about the Department of Petroleum Resources with regards to safety tips. Join us again.